guys. So we're here in day 2 for the ITAP in Singapore, and today actually I thought it would be a treat to actually talk to somebody else in the booth. It's a very interesting group. They're called Umadi, and they deal with some of the interfacing that machine builders would create for helping ensure that the systems can talk to each other well. So actually here we have Dr. Thomas Dasbach. Thomas, hi.
Thanks. Hi.
He's actually the R&D team leader at VDMA, and he's representing Umadi here at the show. So Thomas, you know, we've as Matricon, we of course with Databroker, we do a lot of information modeling, being able to bring in companion specifications. There's a lot of interest about that in the industry, but at the same time, I think that people find it sometimes challenging to identify which of the many standards they would actually start off with. So, you know, interestingly enough, when I look at what Umadi does, this might actually be right in line with it. So, maybe can you give us just a quick overview? What is Umadi? Why is it needed?
Sure, thanks. So Umadi is an initiative, and what we are doing is we are trying to help companies who want to build an interface based on OPC UA to, on the one hand, select the companion specification that's applicable for them, but also, and that's maybe the more important part, also to help them implementing it by providing reference implementation of OPC UA servers that already include companion specifications, but also providing, for example, clients that are able to extract data based on OPC UA companion specifications. So these are services we provide free of charge for everybody who is interested in building an interface.
So would you have what would be an example of like, let's say what's the type of person that would approach you, and what would they be looking for?
Basically, it can be the companies that approach us, or the people approaching us, come from two categories, I would say. On the one hand, you have the machine builders. Machine builders, they are very knowledgeable in building their machines, but sometimes it can happen that they are not so familiar with interfaces like OPC UA, because maybe it's a little bit more the IT side of things, and therefore they need some guidance to get into this huge topic that is OPC UA. And there we have help. And on the other side, you have software vendors, or you have users. They want to get a connection to their machines, and they know there is OPC UA, there is a technology that can do it. But how can you do it precisely? What are the companion specifications? What are the advantages of companion specification? And there we try to give guidance via quick guides, for example, via the already mentioned reference implementations, or we also have a dashboard application that's running in the cloud, where companies who are interested can have a look on actually how the data is transmitted.
See a kind of an action.
Exactly, you have a real life example of the entire stuff working.
So to kind of take it down to layman's terms, then I guess you could say that Umadi compared to OPC UA is kind of like a tour guide for a city. OPC UA being a large city, and you're trying to find, you know, different people come to it with different interests. Some are looking for restaurants, some are looking for nice shows or parks or whatever, and Umadi brings together like a tour guide, kind of a guided tour to say, if this is what you're interested in, here are the things that you would pick from the different guides, etc., the companion specs, in order to have the most fulfilling experience with OPC UA. Would that be?
I like the example, because the city, the technology is OPC UA.
And it's already there.
It's already there. If you are already familiar with it, fine, you can visit the city on your own, implement everything on your own. But if you aren't familiar, if this looks a little bit
daunting
because it is so big, then you can approach us. You can get our help with finding your way through it.
Fantastic. Okay, that's great. So you know, that's so I mean, when I look at it, it seems like a great match. I'm glad that you mentioned not just the actual, let's say, product makers or builders, but also end users. What Databroker, what we do as Matricon, I think the two are well dovetailed, let's say, because we want to bring the ability for end users to be able to take companion specs, load them dynamically into the software, map it to whatever systems they have, and therefore get the biggest advantage, let's say, out of contextualized data, etc. So it sounds like that's actually, when people get the advice, let's say, from Umati to say, these are the types of standards you could use, they could then use that actually in our software, as the next step to actually say, okay, you can put it to use. Let's say a product that doesn't have it.
Especially in a brownfield context, for example.
Brownfield.
Because sometimes you are running into the issue, you already have machines, and you are starting to elevate the rest of your shop floor on OPC UA. You're using companion specification with the newer machines because you can buy it. But sometimes you have older machines, for example, that are not able to use OPC UA because the hardware, for example, is not able to provide an OPC UA server.
It wasn't even designed for that, let's say.
It wasn't designed for that back then. And for such use case, for example, such data brokers that are able to, on the one side, I assume, import data via classical field bus systems, and on the other side, provide these more structured data sets via OPC UA.
Fantastic.
From my point of view, a very big advantage.
Right. Actually, two things that you said there that are very interesting. Number one, definitely if you're dealing with a system that doesn't have information modeling, that would for sure, now enable you to actually bring it in. Actually, another use case could also be some vendors will implement OPC UA on board, but the model they're using might not fit exactly what the end user wants to do. So they could actually remap that into a companion spec that they brought in, and therefore adjust it for exactly their need.
Yeah,
thinking on my feet here, but
thinking so it would be applicable, yes.
Fantastic. Okay, well, great. Well, that's yes, it sounds good. And actually, we just released, for example, Ethernet IP, so an adapter that talks to Ethernet IP systems or Profinet. So going back to your brownfield example, if people wanted to extract some of that information out and present it in a structured way, this is actually the scenario.
Yeah, that's great, because this is some feedback we are getting sometimes, that the companies have older machines that are not able to use OPC UA, and they struggle a little bit to incorporate those older machines in their newer infrastructure.
Right.
And therefore tools like that could be helpful there.
Okay. Great. Now, final question. I just couldn't, resist. So you got a thing, and this suspiciously looks a lot like you.
I'm honored. Thanks.
So anyhow, EU Data Act. I mean, EU always comes out with, they're kind of leaders in, let's say, I think a lot of the standardization and rules for how you do it for good reasons. So what can you tell us about the EU Data Act, and more interestingly, how does OPC UA, Umati, all this that we do, how does that relate?
Okay, so first let's very simply describe what the EU Data Act is. The EU Data Act is a new legal regulation that on the simplest level says that if you have a connected product, or a product that is able to connect to the outside world and provides data in any form, has to be designed in a way that the user of a machine is able to get the data.
Okay.
There are some requirements regarding this getting the data. For example, the data must be structured. The data must contain the metadata. You aren't allowed to just give your user access to your field bus you have in the machine, but you have to elevate the data stream a little bit, so to say, to structure it. And that's where, from our point of view, the VDMA, OPC UA ties into it. From our point of view, we think that you might be able to fulfill the EU Data Act if you provide an interface based on OPC UA in conjunction with companion specification, because those are standards that describe what is usually communicated of data in one domain. So we think that you can use the interface based on OPC UA and companion specification to fulfill the EU Data Act. To be fair, the EU Data Act is quite a new regulation. It is not yet tested in court, so nobody can give a hard answer, this is how you should do it. But from what we currently understand and what the recommendation of the legal departments from us, but also from our member companies is, we think this would be a solution how you can do it.
Great.
And maybe how it ties into Umati. Umati then again helps you to implement this interface based on OPC UA and companion
So just to paraphrase that, again, bringing it to kind of an outsider's viewpoint, but
Sure,
I think
sure.
I understand. That's a great description. So basically OPC UA and the companion specs and Umadi, by recommending different ones for use, does two things. Number one, it gives you access universally to all sorts of equipment because that's connectivity.
Yes.
But also the requirement that you specifically mentioned is elevating the value of the data by providing context so people understand what is actually being used for, which is a perfect poster child for what Umadi and companion specifications do and products like ours, which say upgrade the information yourself so you know what you're going to do with it, and now you've got the information hopefully meeting what the Data Act is calling for. Yeah?
Exactly.
I got it?
That's the idea.
All right, perfect. Okay, well, Thomas, it was great talking to you. Thank
Nice
you very
meeting
much.
you, yes.
And so, guys, we're here at, again, ITAP Singapore. So if you're at the show, come on by, come talk, ask your questions. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.